Hello, I'm Loren Sederstrom, and I'm the host of the All Around Grant Show. Today I have with me, as usual, my co-host, Larry Lanou, and I have a special guest today, Mark Wojcik. Thanks for coming on, Mark. I greatly appreciate the help.
Glad to be.
Need all the help I can get.
Glad to be here. Thank
I'll
you.
second that.
Okay, today we're back with our fluff again. We have to, I know last week we brought you last month we brought you the whole tractor parade, and I hope you enjoyed that. A lot of people get involved. That's one of the big civic events that we have in the city of Grant. And once again, it's designed to bring the community together, and it really fosters a lot of camaraderie. Remember, we're the city that's divided. Half of the people go to Stillwater, the other half go to Mahtomedi. And as a result, normally in small rural communities, the schools are the hub of social activity, as are a couple of restaurants downtown. Well, we don't have that. So we're trying to bring the community together. But anyway, that was our fluff for last month. This month now, if Control Room can put the first video up, and I went to the Northern Lights Car Show at the Blacksmith in Hugo. This has been going on for like 25 to 30 years, and it's one of the largest shows. So if we could play that. There we are up there. I'm giving you a flavor. There was a 37 Ford, a 40 Ford ragtop. There's a Crosley, which we'll interview. There's a 54 Corvette. There's a 57 Chevy. And this, we're panning around, giving you an idea of how large of a car show this is. It's quite well known. You see everything from classics to hot rods to very unusual cars. It's a social event. There's a Pontiac Fiero of 56 Olds, and you can see a lot of the very wide and varied vehicles that are, and you have to realize that this is basically a social event for these people. So I'm trying to give you a flavor of why I bring some of these things to you. Again, it's a social event, bringing community together, and this is all around Grant, and this is right next door, so that's why I brought it to you. Okay, as usual, I did an interview. I'll pick a couple very interesting cars to show you, because I think a lot of people have nostalgia. So if we could run the first interview, please, that would be great, Control Room. Today, we're here at the Blacksmith, and we have a very unusual car. It's a 54 Corvette, one of the first ones, and I'm here with Darwin Yoho. How are you doing, Darwin?
Very good, thank you.
And we're going to have him tell us a little bit about this. This is one of the first Corvettes that came out. Tell us a little bit about it, about the year, what it has, the drivetrain, those types of things.
All right, they started building Corvettes in 1953, and this is a 54 model, but it was built in January of 54, so it's one of the oldest Corvettes around. This is a 1954. All the cars were built with all the options in 1954, so things like radio, heat, etc. So it's got all the options, as all cars did. This one's finished in red, Sportsman red. Of the 3,640 cars built in 54, most were white, some were red, another handful were blue, and a few were black. So this is a red one, red on red. It's in pretty original condition. It's got the original engine, original drivetrain, etc. It's probably been repainted at some point over the years, but I found it in a warehouse in Florida where it sat for at least 20 years. And we nursed it back to health, and I drove it here today.
Okay. As I understand now, they have multiple carburetors on this. It's a 6-cylinder, 235.6, and it's got multiple carburetors. Is that right?
Yes, it's got 3 one-barrel side draft carburetors. Those are original to the car. They're still present. They can be a little troublesome, but most days they do pretty good.
That's not an SU, is it?
It's a Carter carburetor.
Okay, I have an MG with SUs, and they're problematic also.
Yeah, the side draft carburetors, the gas runs out the carburetor and into the car or onto the ground if they're not running quite right. So keep the fire extinguisher handy.
Now, does this have both tops, a fiberglass and a cloth, or just a cloth?
It only has the cloth top, which I'd rather almost get wet than put that up. It's very claustrophobic, and it takes about 20 minutes to put up, so you're getting wet either way.
Now, this Corvette actually has a trunk, is that right?
That's correct. Starting in the 60s, you probably lost the trunk on the Corvette, and it came back in the 2000s, but the early models had a trunk. And you don't have locks on the doors, so there was no way to lock the doors, so the only place you had to put your things that you wanted to be secured was in the trunk.
Okay, well, this is a beautiful car. It's you've done a wonderful job, and I want to thank you for talking with us. Now, the other question I have to ask, what type of transmission?
It's got a power glide. So that's a 2-speed transmission, automatic, common to other Chevrolet cars of that vintage. But all the Corvettes up until 55 were all automatics.
Oh, that's something I didn't know. I learned something today. Well, thank you very much for showing this beautiful car, wonderful American classic.
All right, thank you very much.
What's interesting about that, I've seen a number of earlier Corvettes, and I've never seen one with the side draft carburetors. Most of them went to a different manifold with 2 one-barrel carburetors to get out of the gas problem, because if the gas leaks in the exhaust manifold, we can imagine, you better have some marshmallows ready to roast because you're toast. But that was one of the interesting cars. Of course, I kind of have a soft spot for Corvettes. I've never owned one, but I'd like to, an old one. Okay, the next thing was also was another very, very unusual car. First of all, most people don't know what a Crosley is. They went on to make refrigerators, and the guy also had a radio corporation, but this was a little side thing he had. And they were one of the first compact cars made from after World War II, and they went up until, I suppose, 58, 59 perhaps. But they're tiny, tiny, tiny cars. But they used to see them a lot in station wagons and sedans. But they did make a few convertibles, and I interviewed a man that has resurrected one. And so if we could play the next clip, please.
Okay, today we're here at the Blacksmith Car Show on Labor Day with Brad Yoho. How you doing, Brad?
Doing well.
And he has a very unusual car. First of all, not many people know about Crosleys, but they were made from 37 through 52, I believe that's correct.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And he has a very rare and unusual one. There were very, very few convertibles made. And he has one of the convertibles. And this came from Oklahoma originally, is that true?
Yes, an Oklahoma car originally. We found it in Florida, and it's been customized. And somebody tried to make it look like a Kaiser Darren. They put the Darren dip in the doors. They put the Continental kit on the back. Changed it around quite a lot, and we found it in a dusty old garage in Florida. Hauled it home and been working on it ever since. And it's as you see it right now. So.
Well,
we actually drove it here today, about 15 miles from Stillwater. So.
Okay, tell us a little bit about the engine, because I know Crosley also made refrigerators and home appliances, and so tell us a little bit about that.
Crosley was Powell Crosley owned the Cincinnati Reds baseball team, Crosley Field in Cincinnati, and Crosley radios. He made his big money in radios, and then he had a patent idea as Frigidaire and General Motors started to make refrigerators. He said, well, why don't you put shelves in the front of the door of the refrigerator? Nobody ever had. He made a refrigerator and called it a shelvador. Then he patented that idea, and everybody that made refrigerators to this day pays him royalties to put produce and so forth in the front door of a refrigerator. So,
that's called non-price competition. Smart way to go. Nobody else has it. You've got it.
he did, but his love was building cars, little cars. And so then he started building these cars, sold his radio business, and built these cars up until 1952, and there just wasn't a big enough market for it. If he'd have waited a few more years, small cars came in vogue, but yeah. So he did these. The motors in these cars were government-type motors. It was developed in California. It's an overhead camshaft, gear-driven camshaft, 44 cubic inch, and develops approximately 25 horsepower. So it'll go right on down the road. The car only weighs 1,200 pounds, has mechanical brakes, so you push rather hard on the brakes. But
A friend of mine has a sailboat, and it has a Crosley motor in it. So after they quit doing cars, didn't they continue making marine engines also, I believe?
they made another 1 million of these engines, stockpiled them, used them in Vietnam and on pumps and things like that, generators, yeah, and racing boats, yeah, like you said. So, yeah. Good engine, good stout little motor, yeah.
Now, what kind of transmission does it have?
Has a 3-speed non-synchro. Now, most people don't know what that is, but it means you got a double clutch through all the gears. You just can't shift from second to third. It'll grind in. You have to use your clutch and get your synchro speeds right to shift. So
I have a 59 MGA, and low gear is not synchro, and the only way you put it in a gear, it's you stop all the way. Okay, and now how long have you owned this car?
I think we bought it last fall.
Okay, so it's pretty new to you, and it looks like you've done quite a bit of work on it already.
Well, we live in Florida in the wintertime. We're kind of snowbirds. My brother and I, who's in Brainerd, and we try to buy a car a year and restore it. Just keep ourselves something to do. So this was last year's car that we restored. The year before that, we did a 50 Jeepster, and I think this year we're doing a Dodge Lancer, a 62 Dodge Lancer. So to keep us busy down there.
Oh, well, that's
Others, yeah.
that's kind of neat. That's a neat thing to do. Well, you've done a very good job, and I think you've saved an important piece of history. And thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you. Yes.
There we go. That was, I thought that was rather interesting. Got a little bit of history there. Now we're going to shift gears. We've satisfied the car aficionados. And one of the things we're going to shift the gears to, of course, is Grant. And my guest has a few things to say, Mark. So I'm going to let you go, Mark, and give me some of the observations and conclusions that you've brought forward.
Well, thanks, Loren. Thanks for having me on this morning. Mark Wojcik, I've been a resident of Grant now for me and my family for about 12 years. And in Grant year time, that's not very long. I know there's people that have been here all their lives. So we feel like youngsters in the city, but we love living here. And Grant is such a wonderful place. There's so many terrific things that happen here. First of all, we're so close to the Twin Cities. We're right on the St. Croix River, and of course Stillwater is just down the hill. And so there's so many great things about Grant that I think should be protected. And I like to compare Grant to Woodbury, and I'm not in any way saying anything negative about Woodbury. Woodbury has a lot of terrific services and lots of homes and very nice homes. But the area already has a Woodbury. We don't need to allow Grant to start to be turned into what that is. And I think every time the election comes along, all the city councilmen and our mayor say, you know, we're running on the thought that we want to keep Grant as it is. And, I think what needs to happen after all of that is people need to hold them accountable to that particular promise. Right now, there's a number of roads in the city of Grant that are deteriorating horribly. And the blacktop is breaking down. And these are things that could have preemptively been taken care of, but there's no road policy in Grant to fix those things and make sure that Grant continues to be what it is. And it's really difficult to understand the motivation of why our mayor and our city council people are not putting that program together. It seems as if there's an agenda that is different for Grant than what we all think it should be. You know, Grant's about lower taxes, no question, so keeping taxes down is appropriate, but there has to be a plan for our city, and it seems as if, maybe there's some master plan out there for what's going to happen with these roads eventually that we're not being told about, and I think we should. I know Larry and Loren have for years, or for quite a while at least, talked about the predominance of realtors in our city council. And, I'm not trying to say that these are bad people necessarily, but the way our city is currently being operated, and I understand we are now moving forward with potentially a ward system, which maybe starts to give more representation across the city.
If the charter becomes passed, and that's crucial.
Right, understand all of that. So that's it still has a ways to go. But we're out of balance right now. When we've got all people, or 3 or 4 of the people involved in running our city that are realtors, and 3 of them that live right in the same backyard. And I wrote a quote down here that I'm sure all
On
of you...
2.5 acres, I might add.
Right.
Less.
When everyone is thinking the same, no one is thinking. That was originally from Benjamin Franklin, and then General George S. Patton used that quote. But I think it's appropriate to what's going on here in the city of Grant right now, because there's a singular thought process driven by our mayor, and we don't have people that are stepping out of the box and asking questions about, what is our road policy and how do we get more people in our city involved in what we're doing. So one of the things that I see as a resident, I was on the Grant Planning Commission. I was the vice chairman. That really doesn't matter. I'm a resident, a taxpayer, and so I've got a number of observations about the city that I think are pertinent. And there most certainly is an energy that I don't think is very positive, and it's about not allowing outside Grant people to be involved in running our government. And I've got a couple of examples here. I know Larry and Loren have talked about these, but just to give my perspective on it as a resident, the Grant cleanup for years was, at least the years that I knew of, was run by a citizen group, and it was a fabulous day, and just about every road in the city was cleaned up. People all, I mean, we had all the planning commissioners there, we had several of our city council people there, and a wonderful day. We got an awful lot done. And then somehow or another it was decided by our city council that that shouldn't be that way anymore. It should be run by someone from the city council, and this particular group was not allowed to be part of it. And actually I think, that I don't want to say it failed, but it most certainly wasn't anywhere near the event when you had citizen participation involved in it. The Charter Commission, which Larry is a key member of, you know, there's been an effort to thwart that and to keep other people's voices into helping Grant be a better city. And so once again, there's an energy that's negative about people from the city of Grant, taxpayers, having a voice. It's all about a couple of realtors. Well, they've got a group of 5 people, and some of them do speak out in a different way than Tom, but usually it's one voice that's coming together. As a member of the Planning Commission, we had a terrific group. There were 7 of us: Terry DeRozier, Loren, Larry, Bill David, Bob Tufte, Becky Siekmeyer, and myself. Terrific group of people, diverse group of people. And right now, we don't have that anymore. Tom disbanded that whole group, and I think that's actually a travesty that happened. There are a number of things that need to be happening in our city that we have to have someone else, a different viewpoint, people that have experience. These 2 gentlemen have experience and have taken classes in planning. And that all has been taken out, and it's all put down to our mayor and our councilmen making very, very important and key decisions about our city that we should have more citizen participation in. Public comment, which has been a critical piece to the way any government should be run, allowing people to voice their concerns. That has been squelched so horribly in this city. And I could go through a number of examples of things that have been done by the city council to not allow people to participate and to let their voices be heard. And I think it's wrong. And I wrote down another quote, and in my opinion, this is pertinent: absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think since Tom and the new group have come in, they have just done everything possible to gain and grab more power and not allow citizens to participate in the level that taxpayers and people that are paying their mortgages in the city of Grant should be able to do. So I'm not trying to make them as bad people, quite the contrary.
Can I add one thing in here real quickly? I looked for the clip from the Black Box Theater. I was going to play it. I couldn't find it, where Tom said it during the election, well, you residents can stay home, go to your ball games, and we'll run the city. And that's what he wants, absolute power. He thinks it's the OK Corral, and he's running it. But I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, you're not interrupting it. That's perfect. But we've got very well-educated people behind the scenes that are kind of tilting their head and going, what is actually going on in their city? And so you as a resident in the city of Grant, what do? Well, I don't know that there's a particular, we can't vote them out at this point, but I do think that what's being done should be challenged. I think the appointment list, which is coming up, this is a topic you're going to talk about in a few minutes, but there should be a more varied and diverse group of people involved in the city. The Planning Commission should come back, and we should have more citizen voice in our city.
I think, Mark, and when you talk about citizens' voice, I think public comment is the biggest key to that. It's a freedom of speech right. It's what our forefathers fought for.
Well, let's currently add that the only public comment we currently have is that when the meeting's over, they shut the cameras off, and then you can get up and talk. It's not on the record. It's basically, you might as well go outside and shout at the moon. So they're basically disenfranchising any residents. They don't want to hear from you, folks. They do not want to hear from you.
What I'd like to touch on is, and they've gone to great lengths to stifle it. Originally, we've had public comment historically at the beginning of the meeting so that you don't have to stand there for 3 hours of city council so you can get up and add something, whether it's an announcement for a tractor parade, whether it's a concern you have in your neighborhood. It used to be always in the front of our agenda. They've changed that. Of course, they didn't like hearing from the people that don't reflect their viewpoint. So they came out with a 2-minute egg timer. You flipped over the egg timer for 2 minutes, you could talk, and if you're in the middle of something, you were told to go sit down. They showed very little respect. When they found out the egg timer wasn't working and people were upset about it, they changed it to a policy where you had to sign up 8 days in advance to get up and talk to public speak.
And be sponsored by a council person.
Sponsored by a council person. And then when that was done, and 5 people went through all those steps, came to the agenda, Tom would have 5 people that'd like to get up and speak, and he'd throw 3 of the 5 out that he didn't want. Yeah. And that didn't work, so now what we do is, in order to have public comment, we put it at the end of our city council meeting. We shut the cameras off so it cannot be recorded. It'd be part of the record. He said, I'll sit there let you talk for 2 minutes, and we're gonna let 3 people talk tonight. So that's why people got up, protested.
I think you're exactly right when you say the reason public comment was taken off is people were saying things that were unpopular with what the group, what the city council
They didn't
members-
want to hear it.
They didn't want to hear it. And so, as I was about to say a few minutes ago, I don't think our city council people are bad people. I don't think that at all. But I do think currently our city is out of balance. And I think the appointment list should have a more varied group on it. We're going to talk about that for a minute, in a minute. And as a resident of Grant, what do you do about it? Well, you know, if there's a way that you can send an email to Tom or let city council people know that you think that there should be more citizen participation in our city, I think it just makes for an overall better program.
If I can hitchhike on that, I think believe it was a September or October. It was October, there was a protest at the city of Grant. We've chronicled this on the show. We had 75 people showed up. They were talking about, and I quoted this, and this is related to what the next clip we're going to show. Is 75 people showed up, and people were upset that Tom Carr was reappointing Tronrud, his partner in flipping houses that's been in the city less than a year, to fill a vacancy. Dan Potter, who was on the Planning Commission for 3 years, the City Council for 4 years, wanted to fill the vacancy, and they didn't consider him. And so they're basically just running this through. The following month, what happened is the other council person, Tina Loban, had a 2-page tirade about the terrible citizens of Grant and was admonishing them. So if control room, I'm not going to play the whole 10 minutes that she went on. I'm just going to play a certain segment of it, and then we'll play my response to it. So if control room, you could show that, please. Hold it, I guess we're...
Here we go.
There we go.
If the abusers were not videotaped. In my opinion, media outlets twist information to make it what they want it to be instead of reporting the truth, whether they like the true story or not. I would like to know why the individuals that have local cable shows or access to them can say that their info is factual when in my eyes their video clips have been edited to twist the truth. Why is it okay for them to degrade and take part in childish name-calling or name-changing of individuals that they don't agree with? You don't hear the council sit up here and make jokes at the expense of others. In my opinion, I bet not many people watch such a ridiculous excuse of journalism. The council was elected by...
I'll take that as a compliment coming from her that I'm a ridiculous excuse for journalism. When you have to read your thoughts and plan them out. But anyway, that is their attitude, and I'm giving you just a brief flavor. Now, if control room could play the next clip, this is what I had to say in response.
You can call Mr. Sederstrom, apparently wants to talk if you want to call him.
Okay.
Yes, I do have a show. It's called All Around Grant. Every clip that I show is directly from this particular meeting. The letter to the editor was a direct quote from the newspaper, and the quote I quoted was directly from the city council minutes. So as far as distorting things, that is not true, and I will be happy to prove it to you. I will show it to you. Watch my show, look at the paper, and I'll be happy to provide you with any documentation. You folks, if you find that you think that I'm saying that is not true, that is not based in fact, I have it. It was written in the paper about the liars. It was written in the city council. I have the clips that are directly from the city council. So in terms of questioning what I'm doing,
Mr.
I'm more
Sederstrom,
than welcome.
excuse me, what you wrote in the paper did distort and make the public think something else was going on.
I use the,
We never said that we were gonna go around door to door
did I say that in the paper?
counting horses. You know,
I
the
use-
purpose was we were talking about, oh my gosh, forgive me, I
Groomsmen
forget,
quarters.
groomsmen's quarters.
We're trying to help.
So, during the discussion, we were trying to figure out how many people would that actually be beneficial to? We don't know, because we don't go around counting horses, so we were trying to figure out, well, if you have 5 horses, do you need a groomsman quarters? Do you have to have 20 horses to have a who is it gonna benefit? We don't know as a council. So what you took and threw out in the paper
Was a direct
basically
quote.
made it look like we were gonna run around and start counting horses, and that is not. That's totally taken out of context of what we meant. And you didn't ask, you didn't call, to my knowledge, I don't know if you called anybody.
Not me.
But you didn't ask, to my knowledge, what our intention was. You just took a sentence that the mayor may or may not have said, I don't remember the exact
I
minutes.
said it because
okay?
it was based on what we were gonna do, but.
Okay,
yeah.
but you twisted it so that the public was led to believe that we're gonna go counting everybody's horses, when that is not our intent at all.
I'm not saying intent. What I am saying, however, is in 2010 grazable acres on the all-around Grand Show, I have the spreadsheet where in fact they were counting horses, and Mr. Hinseth went around with
Excuse me,
binoculars
Mr. Hinseth
correcting
is
that.
no longer here,
Then
number
we're-
one.
we're going on history.
Number two, that was back in 2010, this is not then. That is
Well, that
not
isn't-
what we were gonna do.
That isn't, all I can go by, what is printed in the paper and what is printed
No, you
in the
can
minutes.
call, ask, and get facts, or at
Well,
least
that's not facts.
opinions.
The minutes aren't facts.
You could get opinions or ideas of what we're actually talking about, instead of
Well, I
just
go by the
insinuating
minutes.
what we're talking
What's
about.
actually in the minutes. That's all you can go by. We have to go by what is in the minutes. We have to go by what is on the videotape of the meetings. I report exactly what's on the videotape of the meetings and what's in the minutes. If you guys say something that you don't mean, I'm sorry that I quoted you for saying things you didn't mean.
Didn't
Well,
say
then
anything
maybe
about
you
we
should say
didn't
what you
mean.
mean.
Didn't say we didn't say it didn't mean. You just misunderstood.
Gee whiz, I have 3 college degrees and I can't understand it. Imagine that, folks.
Well, not everybody understands everything all the time. A simple phone call or email would be nice.
Hey, come on the show. Be
I
wonderful.
want to come on your show.
Everything I have is factual, beyond the shadow of a doubt. I have it
I would just appreciate a
documented.
phone call or an email if you're going to put things out there. So-
There we go. Imagine that. We need an interpreter. We are supposed to call them and find out what they mean to say. I mean, we can't go by the minutes.
Not
We
what they mean to say, it's what they did say.
Yeah.
Because they actually did it. And I don't know, for the people out there that are watching the shows, this hour production requires about 20 hours of time to put in research, find the documentation. So the reason we haven't been held accountable by any higher authority is because we actually are factual. And so
Everything is well documented. I get the DVDs from the city council. I have to buy them. I get the minutes online. And earlier was about a year or 2 years ago. Tom Carr wanted to vote to change the minutes because he didn't like them. Excuse me, the minutes you don't change. The minutes are what they are. They're what actually happened. Okay, that's that's what we're talking about. And I guess we're now going to shift gears to a little bit about the appointment list. Tina Loban, by the way, was put in as emergency coordinator. And she's the one that it only took 5 months for her to figure out that we don't have 3-phase power in the city of Grant. And considering they just put in a tornado siren the year before, and they had all the documentation from that, they could have just recycled what they did last year.
Actually, had they listened on public comment to Larry Lanou and to you, I believe,
Yes.
all the information about that siren and the error that she was about to make were available in public comment, and they completely squelched Larry and Loren and wouldn't listen to them, and we were going down a very bad path on their own. If they'd have taken the time to listen, they'd have saved a lot of time and money.
And I'd like to talk a little bit about the appointment list that's coming up in January. We have an appointment list, and there are approximately 20 different positions for citizens to take. We have categories, but we have no job description for it. I know, Mark, I can't remember on there, somebody was appointed in charge of weed control, and they didn't know if it was obnoxious weed or something you smoked in the 70s. We have no job description. But we do have 20 places that are places for 20 citizens to get involved and create community pride and spirit. I've asked for the last several years that the city council take the time, fill the volunteer appointment list with citizen volunteers. It's the greatest opportunity to provide community pride and spirit in our community. Now, I would have brought the clip from the public comment this year when we came up and asked the city council that just last month, but as we say, public comment is not part of the record anymore. They close the meeting completely, they adjourn it, then they allow you because they do not want to be part of the record. That being said, just to give you an example, we're filling it simply with council members. Last year, they appointed, who also has the hat as a council member, to Mr. Huber. He is now our webmaster. He is your cable commissioner. He's your newsletter editor, and he's also your deputy mayor. So he's wearing 5 hats that could have been shared with the community. Cable commissioner. The only reason our cable commissioners are held by the position of council members, they get a free $185 a month cable package. We asked Mr. Bonin why he wanted to be cable commissioner. He says, I want the free cable. I says, there's other people in our community that have applied. We've shown the applications.
I was a cable commissioner for 2 years, very involved. It was very good to get to know the people around here, get active in it. And again, because I'm active in the doing shows, it worked very well, because I have some inside knowledge, plus I have the inside knowledge of Grant. But it's just been kind of interesting, and I think we have a clip on that. Again, they're not appointing people. Basically the Planning Commission, the 7 commissioners, that was, they're all appointed positions. Now, can we run the next clip, and we're going to show the arrogance of this appointing Mr. Huber. Now, this is after Fogelson was appointed as deputy mayor because he was the senior council member. So if we could run this clip, please.
The mayor appointment. I put that on there. I'd like to make a motion for reconsideration of the deputy mayor appointment. I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes?
Nay.
Hey.
2 nays, okay. I'd like to make an appointment to have Jeff Huber be the deputy mayor.
I'll second.
Tina, did you second that?
I did.
Okay. My reason for doing this is that while if I am incapacitated and not available as mayor, I'll have bigger problems. But the city, and as far as how we ran in the election and everything, I mean, I ran with Jeff. It's obvious, everybody knows that. And I would be more comfortable with Jeff being able to appoint somebody rather than somebody that was actually supporting me during the election. Not that Scott doesn't support me, he has voted with me on several times. I think actually Scott would make a fine deputy mayor, but that's not the point. I think I owe it to the people that voted for me and that wanted what I wanted and need the same person that would appoint the next person if I somehow would be incapacitated. So that's the whole reason for me making this. I could let this go and just, but Jeff agrees to do it. I would just soon have Jeff. So any further discussion? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Did I make, what?
You didn't.
I thought I made the motion and got us another second. I did.
No, you made the second, but you didn't, when you said, is there any comments, and I held my hand.
Oh, I
up.
didn't see it, Steve. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I looked down here.
The one comment I would make Is it, no?
Okay, there we go. Again, what he's trying to do is maintain control, kind of like what Mark's saying. They have a power grab. They have a vision for this city they do not want the citizens to be aware of. And you know, I may be somewhat jaded, but let's face it, we have some realtors that are guiding us. He's already been quoted as saying the only way we can improve the roads is we break the city up to smaller lots. And let me go on. The roads are, in fact, an issue. There have never been more real estate for sale in Grant, because Grant is kind of a little utopia. It's a hidden spot. And there's now 27 properties for sale. Why are all these people selling their properties? It's kind of interesting, you know. So what I'm saying is we need to really be wary of this. It's a power grab. There's behind the scenes. They don't want to let citizens be involved. And they will, like he said at the Black Box meeting, citizens can stay home because I'm going to run the city.
Well, actually, Loren, just to touch on that, their plan is working. I've been a resident of Grant for 30 years now. Typically, if you knew a friend said, I'd love to move out into Grant, is there anything available? Typically, you could find 2, maybe 3 lots in Grant for sale at one time.
Or houses, period.
Or houses. And now we have 30. So what they're doing is working to their benefit. And it's amazing. They let Scott be deputy mayor for 1 month. They would have given Jeff the position of deputy mayor in January, but it would have looked kind of funny that we gave him 3, 4 positions and deputy mayor. And that's after we were asked to have him refrain be given any positions of authority and responsibility until he'd reviewed for the conduct and disrespect he showed to outgoing council member Dan Potter. That was his reward.
Well, this is more of their agenda, and I hope that people are paying attention to the tone of this council. Just like the clips we've shown with Tina, with Tom Carr. Let's go to the next clip, if we could, please, control room, and this is going to show disbanding the Planning Commission.
He's done some good work, and I think there's multiple things that I could talk about as far as the PC goes. I would rather not. I think at this point, looking at workloads and everything else that we've had over the last year, and I know I've had some discussions with Steve over time where we've talked about the PC, its role, how much work it gets, and at this time, I would just make a motion that we would disband the PC. I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. I think this is better.
That's
you know,
mini-me.
I think there was some talk about people being removed and everything, and I've never removed anybody from the PC. I don't think it's consistent. I feel more comfortable doing it this way. If anybody who's on the PC wants to reapply when we ever have another PC, disbanding does not mean we're not having a PC. It means we're just not having one right now. And the people on it won't be dismissed. So that's what I would like to do. So any further discussion? None? Oh, Tina.
I just wanted to make kind of.
There we go. That pretty much, shows exactly the arrogance. Basically, one of the things, the background in this too, they changed the ordinance on the Planning Commission. And Jennifer Haskamp came in, who was also a realtor. He brought her back without any notice, told the other people not to show up, and she's now the planner for the city, and she's twice as expensive as the one we had. But anyway, they no longer publish the ordinances, and she goes in and changes the ordinances, and one of the significant things they did is when they went from 9 to 7 commissioners, is they changed the verbiage. The old verbiage was the planning commissioners will advise the city council as to of their opinion on different features. What they did is they changed it so the planning commission will only advise the city council as directed by the city on those topics as directed by the city council. This was not published. They put the thing in the paper, excuse me, that says if you want to see the whole ordinance, go to the city offices. It's on the bulletin board behind the clerk. Well, again, this is another deceptive experience, and Mark or Larry
Correct me
might
if
want
I'm wrong, Mark, but I thought we had a very good group of diverse people. We didn't agree, but we certainly had high respect for one another on that commission. I know
Absolutely.
we sat up there. We didn't just do things that were directed by the city council. We took on the complaint policy. We redid our grading. I think we could have met. In fact, we were asking to be allowed to meet simply so that part of our discussion on a planning commission, although we didn't have a land application in front of us, we were going to go in there and start reviewing our ordinance book so we had a better understanding.
Well, I'll akin it to the guy that put shelves in the front door of a refrigerator. We were value added to the city, and we most certainly had a diverse group, a very educated group, and we did not agree on everything all the time, no way, no how. But we did come together, we talked things through, and eventually would provide what I think we all believed was great direction to the city council. And one of the things that really struck me about being on the planning commission was the only direction that we ever received from our mayor was, and I quote, "Just so you know, you serve at the pleasure of the mayor." There was no other direction provided to us as to what, how, when, or where. So I think we went off and did fabulous work, thought things through, provided value to the city, and because there were people on our group that the mayor did not agree with, rather than listen to that and take note of it, he just decided to disband it and move on. So we're back to singular thinking again, and we all know where that
Well, the
is.
interesting thing about that, too, is he came after me for an evaluation because I went down to the League of Minnesota Cities to get job descriptions. And you need job descriptions, even in a small city. It's like an OEM manual, operations and, manual. Well, he then brought these things up where he was charging me with impersonating a planning commissioner. Gee whiz, I was a planning commissioner. Was I impersonating myself? We went to the full-blown hearing. He ended up looking like a complete idiot and dropped it. And by law, they were supposed to have the product of that, the essence of that, produced. Once again, here he is down at the OK Corral doing his own thing. One of the things we need is we need a mayor that listens to the people and follows the rules. Another example, January of this year, it's not on the agenda, it's not in the packet, it's not included in the public packet that's out there. He throws a proposal down, says, I want to change out the planning commissioner. He had previously told the old planner for the city not to show up. And this is mine, and I've played the clip before on the show. Well, Steve Bonin says, well, I can't vote on that. It's not on the agenda. It's not in the packet. It's the first syllable I've heard about this. And he said, well, that's okay. I'd rather work with here, and we're going to do this. Instantly. Of course, that is an open meeting violation, 13C, I believe it is. So we'll see how that comes out.
If I can, Lauren, if some of you get a chance to see the Charter Commission meeting that's going to be rebroadcast out here, I asked a really simple question because it is in our comprehensive plan that says we shall have a planning commission. It says they should have one, and it's a duty of the commission to study, make recommendations to the city and matters related in a comprehensive plan. Review applications for rezoning, conditional use permits, variances, subdivision, and other items. And this is right from our comp plan. And the ordinance, it says you shall have one. And Mr. Carr says, oh, we have one, we just don't have any members. So I asked him during the Charter Commission, just Thursday night, I says, Tom, may I ask you a simple question? We've got, and we'll be showing some of that coming up here, somebody that wants to put in a place to hold weddings, somebody wants to have a country club. Right now, that's all being reviewed by the city council. So I'm going to ask you, Tom, you've been in our there for 10 years. Have you ever attended a planning seminar, city planning seminar, so that you have a background on it? He says, no. I turned and I looked at our other councilman sitting there. Says, Mr. Bonin, have you ever attended a city planning seminar? No, I haven't. I said, well, I can pretty much guarantee you the other three that are sitting there haven't either. So right now, we have a city council making decisions that have never taken a planning 101 course.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, but we had 7 people who were willing. we've taken.
They were also from industry. We had excavators, electricians. We had people that had in-depth knowledge of the construction industry to help them through this.
Well,
and that
and
was
they're taking the
important.
time to take Planning 101 courses. And that was what I said. We, as a planning commission, should have been meeting regularly, reviewing our ordinance book is what we were asking. And Tom Carr said, as a planning commission, you can't meet. And I don't think he had the authority to do it. But, he's not held accountable for anything he does.
Yeah,
There'll be
this-
more clips coming too, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I will be showing next month a few clips from the Charter Commission. We've had several meetings. I'm not on it, I'm just helping film it, because they would not let us meet in our own town hall. The mayor of Montemita graciously let us use their facilities so that we can at least have a telecast, and I wasn't able to get copies to the SCC so that we could get it broadcast, so I will bring you some clips from that. Did you have something to add, Mark?
Well, I just wanted to say that having a planning commission in Grant, it's budget neutral. There was no money that was paid to any planning commissioners. We met at the city hall. I think we had to have someone come in and videotape us is really the only expense. And so not to have a planning commission at this point, the only reason that we would not have one is he just doesn't want to hear the voice of the public. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with anything other than, Emperor Snow wants to keep it all under his thumb.
Well, the other interesting thing is several issues have come up. We've talked about the country club concept, which isn't a country club. We talked about a guy that has a large barn and 40 acres, and his friends got married there, and he wants to turn it into an event center where they just have marriages there from April through September. And all these things are not within the ordinances. Also, they're not within the zoning areas. There have been multiple land divisions, and they have no planning commission for this. That's what a planning commission is supposed to do, is review all this. Now, and I will be showing you the clip on this, that this guy comes forward to have a country club. He wants to see that, and the mayor says, well, if you want to talk about this, you can talk to our city planner, and it's $200. So she's...
Let's just play the clip and show the people.
Okay, let's play that clip.
For Highway 96 and Manning Avenue. It's a supposed country club, and Ed Schmidt is here to talk about that. We've all got information in our packets. Before Ed steps up to the microphone, and we'll have you do that in a second, Ed, I just want to kind of go through some stuff. I've been doing a little researching myself. I just want to get some stuff out there just so everybody kind of has a baseline to go from, and then we'll get some council discussion. And I'd like to talk about this for about, looks like we'll talk about it till about 25 after at the maximum, because we're not going to, it's not a full-blown application, but I think Ed's here just to see if he thinks this is going to work for him. Council needs to talk about it. I don't, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But rather than dwell on that, we'll just get into what I found out. It looks like from Ed's concept plan that in my zoning book, I found a bunch of options that may work, and I found a bunch that don't. I think it's important to know what Ed is going to do exactly. I've had a couple conversations with him, and just to get out on the table before we go in 8 different directions, this is not, Ed, this is not a full-blown restaurant. No, okay. So let's just get that on the table. Okay. And he's got a mixed-use sports with mini golf, some softball, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that we don't have in our table and leaves it up to council discretion is there's a lot of definitions that aren't in the ordinance. So that's one thing that, I'm going to struggle with, and I think the council will have to look at. But we, I think one of the other things we have to do is basically look at, whether or not this use would be considered a business, moving outside the business zone. I don't necessarily think so. It'd be interesting to hear what the council has to say. The other thing that we have to think about a little bit, and just off the top of my head, anytime we have a use like this, I think of a planned unit development where there might be 2 uses on the property. What those 2 uses would be, whether it would be restaurant, bar, / sports, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear from our planner what she thinks about that. And we don't allow planned unit developments in Grant. 2 principal uses on the same property. So, I don't think that's what we got here, but it's something that I think about. And then, we have multiple uses in the table. some of them that might have applied, although you say you're not going to do a restaurant before we talk today, were, restaurant, cafe, supper club, commercial recreation, could be a armory, convention hall. I mean, we have all these various uses, none of which fit you perfectly. So, I think the biggest thing that I'm struggling with is that there is no definition that fits you, what you want to do perfectly.
There we go. Now, to me, that screams planning commission. But that's the issue. But now we're running out of time, so we have lots of things. So now we're going to talk about the Montemita levy, that went down. It was a vote of 56% no to 44% yes. It was the main issue was the 31% open enrollment. And a letter was sent out informing the public. One of the things that they tried to do was be deceptive about it, and we've covered this before. So we can show a picture of the levy letter that went out, please. Oh, no, that's the clip. The levy letter. Okay, there we go. Vote no, Montemita High School levy. The current levy was $569, which it still is, and they were going to go to $1199, which is a 112% increase. They were more than doubling it. We informed the public. A number of people on the see at the bottom, paid for citizens for responsible government. There's going to be more coming out on this. I can't touch on it now, but watch next month. We're going to have some more information on this.
Maybe just play the next couple of...
Let's play the next clip, and this
Move it right along
explains what's going on.
Reading the literature that went out, it struck me kind of unusual in that they said they were going to revoke the levy of $569 instead of letting it expire. And I was curious as why didn't you just let it expire? Because I believe it's up the end of this year. Am I correct?
Next year.
Oh, it's up. So you're revoking it.
1 year.
Okay, I see, okay. And I noticed you were revoking the levy, and that was $569. Then I see the number there is $869. And then I think in the Globe it said if it was approved, it would move to $1,199.
Yeah,
So,
1,200, yeah.
so and I was a little confused by all the numbers.
I'm sorry, I don't know about the 569.
I do.
I don't know if you can, because he-
What you're referring to is it doesn't make any difference to the taxpayers, it's the same amount. But there's local board approval, which is 300.
Okay.
And then there's voter approval. And
Okay,
so school
that was just
districts-
passed this last June.
Yes. And school districts can locally approve 300. It's not an additional 300. So it's, of this 869, 300 is board
Board approved, okay.
And 569 is that. So it's the same number.
But the levy was not 569 before raised by the 300. The 300 came out of the levy that's been in place.
I just didn't understand, that wasn't clear to me.
It's confusing as well because they changed the way they calculate things.
There we go. Okay, control room, is there any way to switch around, play video number 13 before you play 12? Okay, if you could play number 13, and this explains a lot of what's going on.
Recently I had the opportunity to go to one of our informational meetings before the election. And since then, a lot of people have stated there's been a lot of misinformation out there. And it still goes on today. The White Bear Press, a lot of you might have got it, stated that approximately 28% of the voter population got out and voted. And it stated that our levy was going to go revoke an existing levy of $8.99 or $69 and replace it one of $11.99. Now the ballot I had that we all voted on here says that the existing levy was $568 and it was going to go to $869. Quite a conflict of information that's out there. In that meeting, I'd asked that informational meeting, I asked Mr. Wogemot if he remembered the document that he stated, and I asked him why he changed his position on open enrollment. And on the back it said, a proposal to use open enrollment to increase class size in order to institutionalize inefficiency would be wholly inconsistent with a justification for open enrollment and would breach faith with the community. I think that's what a lot of the voters felt this go around. So there's a copy of that. Another statement was made, and as recently as the last informational brochure you put out said that if you have room, you have to accept open enrollment. I asked him, Mr. Larson was there, Mr. Wogelmont were both at the meeting. I says, have either of you read the statute on open enrollment? And they indicated they hadn't. And I said, because, and a copy of that is what I sent out to you over here. It states that you can limit open enrollment to 1%. So you can limit it, you don't have to accept open enrollment. Now recently, we've gone to 31% open enrollment, and I think that's been a concern of the citizens. It is funded largely by the local taxpayers. Their local levy tax dollars do not follow the students collected in that district. So we've seen our taxes go up, and I think the voters have spoken. That's one of the issues that come out. And just lastly, just a couple figures out there. We have 1,019 open enrolled students. Now, if we take an average of 25 students per grade, and you divide 25 into that number, you come up to 41 classrooms. Now, 41 classrooms, teachers and staff. The new Wildwood Elementary School was designed for 39 classrooms, I believe. That's what came in front of our planning commission for the city of Grant. And so, one of the things that I noticed there is maybe we should have been merging the district. And I asked Mr. Wogelmont for a straight answer. Why did we not consider merging? And why was it a better choice to put the school on the Bel Air sanitation site rather than merge on a 24-acre safe site? I was not given the answer, and I see I'm getting close to my time on that.
You've got about another minute.
Okay, well then, I would like to inform you of the conditional use permit that was issued to the school board when given the permit to build that school on that site. It said every 6 months or twice a year, you will do testing to see, you know, what contaminants are out there and monitor this site. It's part of their conditional use permit. I've asked the city council, have we seen a single one? No. I asked our city engineer. The only testing results we have seen was for compaction, because we built the school on the lowest piece of property Bel Air owned. That's why they didn't dump directly. They got their trucks stuck there. So I would like to ask where your monitoring wells are and where we can get a copy of these required documents so that we can get a baseline and know that we are protecting our children. You're watching the news, Malibu, and now we're over at Como, so.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for your comments tonight. Is our
Sure.
general, okay, yeah, 1 second.
Cut,
Is our general,
cut, control room.
what we
There we
generally
go.
do is not.
Anyway, so that was that comment, and we covered some things. Now we're going to jump ahead to their wish list. Now this is after the levies went down, folks. So if we could play that number 12, the wish list.
Obviously, a lot of the focus has been on the new gym, and it's incredible. In fact, I just had the AD from New Prague call me up and say, can I come over and just take a look at what you guys have done? So that is, I didn't call him up and say, hey, come do this. Word has gotten around that we really have done a very nice job. Obviously, we had a new stadium a little while ago. The tennis facility, if you don't know, I worked at Anoka last year, and the tennis courts, like if a ball hit the tennis court, it would go this way because there were so many cracks on it. We're very lucky. We have a nice partnership with community education, Annette's in the back, about how we partner with community education to make sure that our associations have field use. And so that's been a very nice partnership, and Annette and Pam Klinkhammer
Okay, cut control
really
room.
understand.
There we go. But you did see in the wish list where they wanted indoor hockey arena, they want a swimming pool. Those are very, very expensive additions. They're just going forward. They don't know when
Another
to
turf
quit.
field. I mean, at one point, I would like a swimming pool at my house, maybe
other
remodel
end-
my kitchen.
The other interesting thing I
Live
want to
within your
point out,
means.
one of the former track coaches has passed away from cancer. Now, they were out in those fields, which is a former Superfund site. So, and we brought the Como issue up about the underground plumes of TCEs. So this isn't, we're just not crying wolf, folks. But we wanted to bring some of these issues to you. We packed a lot of things in one time. I want to thank Mark for coming and enlightening us. And I also want to thank Larry for helping out. Again, it's hard to get our message out, but next month, be watching. I'll have some more cars for you to look at, a little bit of fluff, and then we're going to be talking a little bit more about the charter, and I'm going to actually bring you actual clips from some of the things that have been said, some of the things that have been done. The mayor has put more speed bumps in the parking lot of the charter than you'd ever believe. They won't let us meet. They won't even let us have technicians, so we have to rustle people up, and that's reimbursed so it doesn't cost the city a dime. Once again, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Larry. And we will see you next month and show you what's happening all around Grant.